the final home game for Edmonton. Will the Orange and Blue keep the magic going and force the seventh game? We get you set for Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Oilers and Panthers right here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. How are you doing on this beautiful Friday in Edmonton? Welcome to the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Tom Gazzola with you. YouTube Trev with you. He's holding things down back at ESTHQ. Matty Kassian on his way just after 5 o'clock. And we've got Derek Van Diest from NHL.com joining us in about 12 minutes time. This is do or die for a third straight game for the Edmonton Oilers. They've handled this situation so well in the playoffs this year. Can they repeat it one more time? Force the seventh game. Who knows what could happen in Game 7? Or do the Panthers spoil the party here in the Big E, the City of Champions, and go home 47 pounds heavier with that big, beautiful silver trophy in tow? You better believe nobody around here wants that to happen. And we'll see if Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and co can make sure that they drag this thing back to Florida one more time as well. Of course, we highly encourage you to text us, get in on the conversation. 780-218-9999 is the number to text. If you're listening on iHeartRadio, tune in, Apple Music, and of course on our EdmontonSportsTalk.com audio player. That's how you can reach us. I want your thoughts on the game. I want your thoughts on how you've prepared yourself mentally for this day. Have you had a few social sparklers? Did you leave work early? How are you feeling going into this game about the team? Let me know. We want to hear from you. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, as our dear buddy Dusty Nielsen likes to say on the smash hit Nielsen show. Well, here we are, YouTube Trev. I talked to you before we went to air, and I said, how are you doing? And you said what, Trev? You said what?
Not gonna lie, I'm pretty nervous, man. This is crazy. Holy crap. Yeah, like I feel like I speak for everyone my age and younger. This is something that I've never seen before. I've never experienced this feeling before. That we're watching stuff that we've never seen before, Tommy. It's incredible. Yeah. So this is more than just hockey. This is history. This is greatness, and all eyes are on Edmonton, man. This is pretty cool for sure. I'm lost for words, man. It's just been a roller coaster of a season, and now we're at this is the last home game of the season. So it's all down to 2. It could be 1, but here's hoping it's 2 games left. But man, it's just been what a ride it's been, and I'm just so looking forward to tonight's game. This is just insane, man. I can't believe we're here right now. This is I'll remember this for the rest of my life.
Attaboy. All those years later, 18 years ago, people packing White Avenue, the Oilers forcing a 7th game, a convincing Game 6 victory, a different team back then. We did an event, Bids for Kids Sport, the other night. Myself, Dusty Nielsen, we're joined by Georges Laraque and Sean Bell, and we did a little hot stove. You could catch that on our EST YouTube channel if you're curious. And Georges Laraque said, this is different than 2006. This is a different team. Nobody expected us to be there in 2006. There was no Connor McDavid. There was no Leon Draisaitl. They didn't have a 50-goal scorer. They didn't have an all-world defenseman in Matthias Ekholm. They didn't have an Evan Bouchard at the time. They did have a Chris Pronger, but it was a different team that had zero expectation and surprised a bunch of people, whereas the Oilers were a team that was picked as a favorite to go to the Stanley Cup Final, potentially win the Stanley Cup. And here they are after what was a tumultuous start to the year, and then they totally redeemed themselves with an excellent end of November and all the way through to the spring in the postseason, marching their way to a Stanley Cup Final. And here we are going into Game 6. Their backs against the wall. Once again, it is not easy, but this team is on the cusp potentially of doing something that is so rare, rarefied air. The 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs doing it in 4 games straight. They're down 3-0, come back and win the series. It was against the Detroit Red Wings, and that was 82 years ago. And we'll see if Edmonton can try to put themselves in some elite and rare company if they can get a win tonight against the Panthers. All right, I want to see that text line buzzing. Redbeard's getting in there. What's up, old Redbeard? Scott Laurie says, Tommy, Let's beep and go. Hell yeah, Redbeard. I'm excited for this game. If you're a hockey fan, if you have a pulse, you should be excited for this game. I know some people tune it out in other markets, but you better damn well know that the rest of Canada is watching, maybe out of spite, maybe out of curiosity. Maybe they've hopped on the bandwagon temporarily, but everybody will be watching. So we'll see what the Oilers can do. We'll go to Safety Bob now texting. It says, Tommy, I have been waiting what seems like a week for this show. So good to see you. Mark my words. Dry wakes up and picks up 2 points. Oilers are going to Florida. LFG. Get to hear from you, Safety Bob. Let's go to this one. Rip City Step said he get a picture. He's been putting in a shift. He's got Corey B in our building. That looks like a real photo in the hot tub on the site of where we recorded and did the hangout live with Jonathan Torrens and Alice Moran. Well done, Rip City Step. Are you guys hanging out with Awanik? Did he let you guys in? I don't know, but have fun. Be safe. Mix in a water, all that good stuff. All right. Keep those texts coming in 780-218-9999. Let's get into anticipated lineups for this one. And I will throw out the question of the night as well. I do want to get as much feedback on everybody and how they're feeling and what they're thinking going into this game 6. Do or die once again. Starting lineups. Here is what we are expecting. McDavid with Fogle and Hyman. Draisaitl between Nugent Hopkins and Holloway. Henrique with Janmark and Brown. Ryan between McLeod and Perry. On defense, Ekholm with Bouchard. Nurse paired up with Broberg. Kulak with Ceci. And if you're going, but Tom, didn't I hear Evander Kane is a game-time decision? But Tom, didn't Chris Knobloch say they have many possibilities yesterday at practice? Yes and yes, and we'll see what happens with Evander Kane. But I don't know why you would mess with a lineup that has gotten you 2 straight wins in this final, unless you have a hunch or you know that Evander Kane is healthy enough to make it go tonight. I would take a healthy Derek Ryan personally over a banged-up Evander Kane, even if Evander Kane is begging and pleading and saying, I'm at 75%. Put me in, coach. I'd say, no. I appreciate it, but you are not well enough to play. So that leads us to the question of the night. Should Evander Kane be in the lineup tonight if he is healthy enough to play, or do you stick him with a lineup that has won the past 2 games, or do you stick with a lineup that has won the past 2 games? Let me read that one more time. 780-218-9999. Text us or get into the nasty chat. Should Evander Kane be in the lineup tonight if he is healthy enough to play, or do you stick with a lineup that has won the past 2 games? Let us know. We want to hear from you. Let's go to YouTube, Trev, on that one. Trev, what would you say to the question of the night?
Yeah, I'm with you, Tommy, and I think it's a fairly obvious answer. Like, just looking at the lineup, you got the first line of Fogle, McDavid, and Hyman. I think Fogel's done really good on that first line, so I'm not touching it. You got a second line of Holloway, Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I think has looked pretty good at times. Obviously, it could be better, but that still has its potential of being a really good line, and for the majority of the playoffs, it has been a pretty solid line. For the first time in forever, it seems like the Oilers have a third line that's just a legit third line, so that's untouchable. That's almost the most untouchable line for me, Tommy, in these playoffs. I guess in this series for sure. And then you got a fourth line. It all comes down to the fourth line. And like you said, I'd take 100% Ryan McLeod, Derek Ryan, or Corey Perry at this point over a banged up Evander Kane. They've won without him, and at this point, I don't really know how much Evander Kane offers. So I think you stick with the lineup that's won you the last 2 games, Tommy.
I'm with you 100% there, Trev. All right, we've already got responses coming in via the nasty chat. Keep those coming at 780-218-9999. It is the question of the night one last time before we get to some audio. And then Derek Van Diest. Should Evander Kane be in the lineup tonight if he is healthy enough to play, or do you stick with a lineup that has won the past 2 games? A lot of responses right out of the way. As soon as I let that question of the night fly, Pablo says EVK is pretty hurt. I'd be shocked to see him. Me too, Pablo. Chief Andy says Kane hasn't done jack. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Agreed. Epiphany says stick with what has won for you. Safety Bob says stick with the lineup. They got them here. Joel says make him sit. All caps there. Easy E says Kane helped the Oilers get to the Stanley Cup Final. Time for old boy to rest. And then Nick Son says Knobloch is going to make the right call regarding Kane. Yeah, he's pushed the right buttons in these playoffs. Absolutely. A few misses, but for the majority of his decision making, it has been spot on and have helped lead them to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. All right, here's what we anticipate from the Florida Panthers lineup-wise tonight. Barkov between Verhaeghe and Reinhart. This line, the second one, if you will, quote-unquote second line. Sam Bennett with Evan Rodriguez and Matthew Tkachuk. I thought Bennett and Tkachuk were absolutely buzzing, and I thought Rodriguez was a very good complement to those two. They have been dangerous in the past 3 periods. Third line for the Panthers, Anton Lundell, Eetu Luostarinen, and Vladimir Tarasenko. And then the fourth line, we'll see a bit of a tweak. Kevin Stenlund between Ryan Lomberg and Nick Cousins. That means no Kyle Okposo. On defense for the Panthers, Gustav Forsling with Aaron Ekblad, Nico Mikkola with Brandon Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson paired up with Dmitry Kulikov. And then out for the Panthers, Okposo, Lorentz. And now Cousins goes in. So there you go. Those are the anticipated lineups. That brings us to starting goalies. For the Edmonton Oilers, the 25-year-old Stu Skinner, 13-8 with a .253 GAA, .898 save percentage with 1 shutout in 21 playoff games this year and lifetime in the postseason. Skinner, an 18-14 record, .291 goals against average, .893 save percentage, 1 shutout in 33 career postseason appearances. Let's go to the Florida Panthers side of things now. No surprise, Sergei Bobrovsky, the 35-year-old, 15-7 in these playoffs, .235 goals against average, .906 save percentage with 2 shutouts in 22 playoff games. Bobrovsky in the postseason, a 44-42 record, .287 GAA, .905 save percentage with 3 shutouts in 92 career playoff games. All right, those are your anticipated starting lineups for this Game 6 Stanley Cup. On the line, if you're the Florida Panthers, if you're the Oilers, you're looking to force a 7th game Monday night in Florida. We're going to throw out the question of the night one last time before we go into the Oilers locker room and hear from head coach Chris Knobloch. Question of the night is this: should Evander Kane be in the lineup tonight if he is healthy enough to play, or do you stick with the lineup that has won the past 2 games? Text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat on YouTube. All right, without further ado, let's go and hear from the Oilers. Let's go to head coach Chris Knobloch.
Said he's not happy with his game. He hasn't been all series. Just wondering what you're thinking and how do you get a guy out of his head like that?
I think Leon puts a lot of pressure on himself. I think the best players always want to be the best and expect a lot out of themselves. And I've seen Leon play better than he has, but I think he's been contributing a lot, and I think he's harder on himself than he should be. And I don't know. I think yesterday he had a good day of practice. He looked like his self, and I'm expecting him to play a good game tonight.
Right side, front row, Derek.
In that same vein, Chris, I just want to ask you about moving Ryan Hopkins to his line. I guess, does that give you more balance, or what was the kind of thought process of moving Warren Foegele up and Ryan down to his line?
I don't know, just, matchups, what they want to do, and having a little more speed or defensive responsibilities. It was just more of a matchup thing. That was it. And, that was about it.
In that same row, Jason.
Chris, before Game 1 of the postseason, you mentioned that you didn't really know what to expect. It was your first time in it. You're set for Game 24, I think it is. Can you take us kind of through what your journey's been as the coach and what you've maybe learned about yourself throughout this playoff?
I don't think I had time to think about myself, just with the line matchups and the systems and pre-scouts. Probably when it's all said and done, and then I'll look back and reflect on it. But I've enjoyed the journey. It's been I can't say it's been fun. I like where we've gone and what's happened. But I like the players. I think we've all been enjoying this process. When it's all said and done, I think I'll really appreciate it.
Has it been more intense than you expected, or less? Like in the moment, you talk about the line matches and how every shift matters. Maybe every decision for the coach matters too.
I don't know. As a coach, you're always on coach mode. You're always thinking about things, and I've been in that situation too. Obviously, the stakes are a lot higher when you're in the NHL, but whether it was in junior or the American League, I never had a lot of big games in the American League, but junior level, there's those early mornings where you wake up and you're getting to the rink early and thinking about something because you can't sleep, and that happened in junior and happened here, and you got big decisions to make. More eyes are on you in the NHL, obviously, but the process has been the same.
Left side front row, Bob.
Chris, you might have missed it, but Leon circled back on, self-criticism. Just a thought on, has it been your experience that the best players can handle it and they don't sit there and just shut it down? Because it was he had the opportunity to sort of edge out of it and he circled back to it. So what does that tell you about him?
Well, Leon's, a lot of can be said about his character. He's played through injuries and come out with these unbelievable performances throughout the playoffs this season and past. For me, watching him during the regular season, how much dedication he has towards the game. He is the first person to the rink every single day, whether that's for the game or practices. He's sometimes at the rink an hour before anybody else shows up. He loves the game. He's very critical about himself because he expects himself to be really good every single day. Sometimes that can be hard on a guy because he's too critical. And like this playoffs, I think, or this playoff, obviously throughout all the playoffs, his body of work has been tremendous. And then I think he's just being hard on himself this series. And yeah, I think there's more. I think he's played better, but he's still been pretty good for us.
Left side third row.
There you go. That was head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, Chris Knobloch, speaking to the media this morning. And yes, Leon Draisaitl expects more from himself in this Stanley Cup Final. And we might hear a little bit more from Draisaitl later on in the show. 2 assists through 5 games for number 29 in orange and blue. Keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. All right, let's bring on our first guest of the night. It is Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. He is live at the Media Center, a.k.a. the Downtown Community Arena in Ice District as we prepare for Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. DVD, I want to get to a little bit of housekeeping first because even though it's Game 6 of the Cup Final, we're getting all this league news. We've had trades, we've had statements, we've had this, we've had that. And the Arizona Coyotes, who are still a franchise in the National Hockey League, kind of in waiting, call it stasis, whatever, have put out a statement not that long ago, about half an hour ago. And you do cover the league. You have covered the league for a long time. You and I have been through Arizona many times when the Coyotes were still active before they just moved to Utah. Here is the statement from the Arizona Coyotes. Today, after over a year of planning and meeting every obligation required under Arizona law, the Arizona State Land Department unilaterally canceled the auction that was scheduled to occur on June 27th for the site that has been identified as the future home of the Arizona Coyotes. This unprecedented action by the state of Arizona seriously jeopardizes the future of NHL hockey returning to the desert. As was announced in an April press conference by Coyotes owner Alex Morello and NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, the site of North Scottsdale Road and 101 was identified as ideally suited to build a 110-acre mixed-use development anchored by state-of-the-art arena to serve as the home of the Coyotes. It has been made very clear to the state of Arizona that the Coyotes are fully committed to building out the infrastructure, going through the necessary approvals, and developing the site into a world-class destination. Yet the ASLD has canceled the auction despite the objections of the Coyotes less than a week before the scheduled auction date. The Arizona Coyotes are exploring all of their legal options given this short-sighted decision by the state. That sounds like a death knell to the Arizona Coyotes, DVD.
Yeah, it does. It's going to be tough to get hockey back in Arizona. To tell you what, they try to make a go of it there for a long, long time, try to make a run of it there. And when you lose something, it's really tough to get it back. And I think right now we're going to see this situation where everyone's going to be passing the buck. What's his fault? It's his fault. It's his fault. This is whose fault it is. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. I don't know what the inside politics of all that is, but I think it all comes down to who they want to pay the bill, who's going to pay the bill. And I think maybe that's probably the issue right now. And that's always the issue when you're trying to build a sports and entertainment facility, especially for a major league team, is who's going to foot the bill for the major stadium. And I think that's one of the issues right there. But yeah, this is, like I said, as soon as that team left when we went to Utah, that was always going to be a tough go to get back. I think that was a way to say, okay, well, if there's a sliver of a chance to come back and they have all their ducks in a row, we will come back. But it just looks like it's going to take a long time to wrangle those ducks and get them in a row, because it just right now, just the ownership group and the way things are going and the way, we've heard he does business is just not conducive to success of an NHL franchise. And I think everything that's led up to this point, I think there's a reason maybe why the city or the state doesn't want to work with this group or this particular owner. Like I said, I'm not sure of the situation there, but I'm looking at they're going to start passing the buck and pointing fingers at whose fault it is why there isn't hockey in Arizona, and I just don't see it coming back.
Think you're muted, Tommy.
There you go. So big news. Thank you, YouTube Trev. When it comes to the Arizona Coyotes, that franchise, once Pacific Division rival of the Edmonton Oilers, and going extinct, let's call it, for the time being. And that is no bueno for them, but Utah lives on in the Central Division, and we'll see how that franchise tries to flourish. Sounds like they are in good hands with Ryan Smith and his wife at the helm, running things. All right, it is the Stanley Cup Final after all, Derek Van Diest. It is Game 6 of this Cup Final. It was a nail biter of a Game 5. You were down there. Give us your take on what we saw in Florida a few days ago.
Well, we talked about it, I think, after Game 4, just that the Oilers had to play their best game of the series to be able to sneak that one out of there and drag this thing, as they've been saying all along, drag it back to Alberta. And they did. They played probably 55, 56 minutes of exceptional hockey. They got a little tense at the end there, as you'd expect. The Florida Panthers weren't just going to roll over and die. They were going to make a push, and they had a lot of good opportunities to make a push. But I think, again, it started with, the little mistakes, little opportunities there. The Oilers kind of opened the door for the Panthers. At 4-1, they should have been cruising. They let them score right away. 4-2, now things get tense. 4-3, now they're really tense. And the Oilers managed to survive. And that's something that sometimes you have to be able to manage those things. You have to be able to manage to survive those games and get out of there and get on the bus or get on the plane and just get out of town. And that's exactly what they did. But that was that game. So now you have to play your best game again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the challenge with with being down 3-0 is that you're playing from the edge of a cliff, and every game has to be your best game. Like, your last game was great, your next game has to be better. Your next game is great, the one after that has to be better. And I think that's the issue right now. The Oilers know, as good as they were in Game 4, as good as they were in Game 5, they have to be better in Game 6, because Florida right now does not want to go home. Trust me, they do not want to go home, have a Game 7, because all the pressure will be on them. Everyone in Florida will know about 1942. Like, we were down there, people were talking about it already.
Wow.
So it was one of those things. They do not want to go home. They'd rather win it here, celebrate here, and then party all the way on the plane back. It'll be a party plane if they manage to pull it off here. But again, they're going to have to play much better than they've been playing in the series. You can make an argument that Florida has been outplayed in a lot of games in this series.
NHL.com's Derek Van Diest joining us now here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream. And DVD, talking to players and coaches from the Panthers side of things, what's your sense of the team's collective mindset? Do you sense fear? Do you sense frustration? Do you sense that sort of thing is creeping up to them? Or do you think that they're in a good mental space?
I think they're in a better mental space. And I think the extra day kind of helped them, because you get over that disappointment. They had the party ready to go. They had the champagne in the room. They had the family members there. They had a spot for the Stanley Cup at the Elbow Room, the famed hockey bar down in Fort Lauderdale. They were already clearing out a spot for the Stanley Cup. It's going to be here at the Elbow Room. So it was one of those. It was such a disappointment. There's such a big party, and it didn't happen. So now you have a day to kind of decompress, recover, and now go back to the focus. And now the difference between this game and Game 4, the Panthers paid for, I think it was 150 family members and friends to come to watch, to celebrate with the team. This time they said, sorry, guys, you're on your own. We're not doing that. We're not making that mistake again. You guys are on your own. If you want your family members there, if you want your friends there, you guys are going to have to fly. We're not taking care of that anymore. We're going to get focused on winning this game. But I think they had that extra day to reset and refocus. I think it would have been tough had they played right away, had they only had the one day between games, the travel day, and then playing here, because that's still in the back of their minds. But I think the Florida Panthers know that they've probably been outplayed in 4 or 5 of these games. They were outplayed in Game 1 and were able to sneak it out. They were outplayed in Game 3 and they were able to take advantage of a couple of mistakes. They were outplayed obviously really badly in Game 4. Got blown out of the water 8-1. Like, if you get blown out of there like that leaves a mark, Tom. That takes a while to kind of recover from a beating like that. And that was flat out, straight up a beating. So even if it was Game 4 when they were up 3-0, and then obviously the anticipation. I was in Florida. They were already planning the type of parade and celebrations. Everyone thought, okay, this is going to be anointment day. It's better that we came back here anyway, so it wasn't a big deal that they lost Game 4. And then suddenly they lose Game 5, and all of a sudden they're looking at it going, holy mackerel, this is going to be a little tougher. But they always say Game 4 is the toughest to win. So it's proven that so far for the Florida Panthers, but I expect their best game tonight.
Has Matthew Tkachuk awoken? He was a very impactful player in Game 5. I thought him and Sam Bennett were dangerous essentially all night, especially in that third period. Should the Oilers fear Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett right now going into this Game 6?
Well, I think he might have. That goal really probably helped him. Getting that goal helped him. But I think I've said this about Matthew Tkachuk dating back to his days when he was in Calgary. He's an exceptionally talented player. He is exceptionally talented. But when he gets into the antics, when he gets into the diving, when he gets into the snapping his head back when someone, pushes him, when he gets into all that, that to me, that takes away from his game. It doesn't add to his game. And I tell you what, right now, the Oilers could hack and whack and shoot Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk the way they've been flopping all over the ice. Like, I thought Sam Bennett looked like he had ripped his knee off, and he's crawling on the ice trying to get off. He's back the next shift. And I think right now the referees are the same referees throughout the series, and they see that, they know that, and they go, okay, you guys are trying to make us look bad. And I think that was the situation with the Matthew Tkachuk embellishment call, because that was a hook all the way.
Yeah.
And 99 to 100 times, that's just a hook, and you move on with it. But because Matthew Tkachuk gets hooked, he falls down, he flops around, the referee's like, you know what? We're tired of this guy. We're tired of their antics. If he just went out and played the game, play a straight up game, he's an effective player. But when he gets into all that other stuff, I think that takes away from his game. Same thing with Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett can be a very effective player, but when he gets into the dirty and the chippy stuff, and these guys are lying on the ice like they got shot, and they're back the next shift, I think that resonates with the officials. I know I'm a soccer referee. If a guy goes down, he lies down the ice or on the field for 5 minutes, and then he gets up and then he makes a 60-yard run. You know what? Next time, I'm not going to maybe buy that dive or buy that head snap back or things like that. So I think it's good that he got a goal. I think it's good for the Panthers that he got a goal. It's good that the Panthers got to this point without Matthew Tkachuk really being a factor. But Barkov had been a factor. Bobrovsky had been a factor. Bennett had been a factor. Reinhart had been a factor. So those guys have kind of pulled this team in that regard. But if they're going to win the cup here, they're going to clinch it here. And tell you what, there's a motivation for Matthew Tkachuk to win the Stanley Cup in Edmonton.
Yeah.
There's lots of motivation for him to lift the cup here. There are some battles in this building. So he's going to be a very motivated player. But to me, I think he just go out and play. Like, get rid of all that other garbage. Just play the game straight up. You're a good enough player. Hopefully, for the Panthers' sake, he just leaves all that stuff behind, because it's not going to wash anymore in this series.
Derek Van Diest from NHL.com joining us inside the media center at Rogers Place. Tom Gazzola with you inside the EST satellite studios just outside of Ice District. YouTube Trev holding things down back at ESTHQ. Text us 780-218-9999. Of course, get into the nasty chat. Derek, you were there in 2006. You covered this team since then. It was a crazy run that the Oilers went on It was a Cinderella run, and I know that it ended with the clock striking 12 and Carolina hoisting the Stanley Cup. But talking to Georges Laraque a couple of days ago, he said that this is different, and he doesn't think there are a lot of similarities outside of the amount of games that the Oilers are managing to force the opposition to before the Stanley Cup is lifted. Do you feel that this is different? Do you understand what Georges Laraque meant by that when he said that, no, this team in this situation is different than 06, or do you agree or disagree with that?
No, I agree to an extent. It's different than the same. Like the '06 team had no pressure on it. They played the entire playoffs with house money. They weren't supposed to be there. They barely got into the playoffs. They got in as the 8th seed. They knocked off the number 1 seed, and then they were lucky that the number 2, number 3, and number 4 seeds were knocked off as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of opened the road for them. And then they were able to go, and they were spanked the first 2 games in San Jose. Everyone thought, okay, that series is over. They managed to come back. They managed to play really well, and they really kind of found their stride in the Western Conference Final. So I think, but that team wasn't laden with superstars. They had Chris Pronger, they had Dwayne Rolison, and then they had Ryan Smith and Sean Horkoff and Fernando Pisani and Jason Smith, like a bunch of pluggers, for lack of a better word, right?
Yep.
George Laraque, like they weren't supposed to be there, so there was no pressure on that team whatsoever. The only time they had pressure is when they forced the game 7, and now all of a sudden, wow, there's a chance they're going to win the Stanley Cup. That's the only time there was pressure on this team because they weren't expected to be here. This team, this 2024 team, they had pressure from the start of training camp.
Yeah.
The very first second they stepped on the ice. Before that, when they had the captain skates, they were talking about Stanley Cup or bust, Stanley Cup or bust. This is a team with 2 superstar players on it. They have a great nucleus around them. This is a team that was expected to be here, and they're expected to win. And if they come up short, even if they lose in Game 7, everyone's going to say it was a disappointing season, which is different than the Oilers in 2006. It was a fantastic season. It had a disappointing end.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be a disappointing season, regardless of all the records McDavid has broken, regardless of this great run they've been on, regardless of the fact that they went 3-0 and now they're close to kind of forcing a Game 7, regardless of the fact that they changed their coach. Like everything surrounding it, if they don't lift that trophy, McDavid's legacy is up for question. What happens to this team now? Do they break it up? What happens to Ken Holland? There's just so many questions around this team. So all the pressure in that sense is on Edmonton. That it's the pressure that the 2006 team did not have. Now, saying that, in the way this series has developed, in 2006, they were down 3-1. They managed to win Game 3 and lost Game 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same thing. They went down to Carolina. The party was ready. Everyone was ready to go. They had the fans and the family, and it was going to be over. And then the Oilers managed to steal that game and bring it back home. And I think the one memory I have of that game is I guess Mac T must have been going at it with the fans behind him because he turned around. You remember, he went 7.
Yeah,
we'll see you in 7, right? And I think that was one of those lasting images I remember of that when he said, we'll be back in 7. They came here in Game 6 and absolutely annihilated the Carolina Hurricanes. The crowd was crazy. It was ruckus. It was like they won 4-0. It could have easily been 8-0 that game. They absolutely annihilated them, and then they had all the momentum going to Carolina, and then they lost a close game in Carolina. So there's differences in the way the series is played out. This one is 3-0 as opposed to 3-1. But if it's going to repeat anything in 2006, if they can feed off this energy of this crowd and they can just keep going and play that game, the Oilers believe that their best game is better than Florida's best game.
Mm-hmm.
That their best players are better than Florida's best players, and I agree with them. And I think in the sense that in 2006, I think that team had to have a little bit of luck. They had to have things bounce their way. They had the other team not be on the top of their game. The Oilers, if they play their best game, they're going to beat you, and that's the way they feel right now.
One other thing that Georges Laraque said about that Game 7, he said that they had run out of gas by the time they got to that game. Everything was spent in Game 6. So that was interesting to hear him make that admission. We'll see if they can, follow a different path this time around. DVD, this place is going to be nuts. And you remember that lead up on Hockey Night Canada with the Nickelback song going into Game 6? I've been told Nickelback is going to be in the building tonight. Not performing, but they're here.
I wouldn't be surprised because them and Connor McDavid are good friends. So I wouldn't be surprised. Somehow they had to get Shania back here. I don't know if they were able to get Shania back here somehow because she might have been the good luck charm. But I think it's going to be a great game. But the Oilers know they have to play their best game. Leon Draisaitl has to play his best game in the series. And I think if they do that, and we're going back to Florida. I started doing laundry this afternoon just in case. So that's the way things go. We'll see if they're back in Florida. I'm on a 6:30 bus on the way to the airport. So, and I want to be on that bus, to be honest with you. I'm ready to be on the bus. We've gotten this close, Tom. Let's just cross the finish line. We can't stop this close.
Yeah, I think we all want you to be on that bus, and I'm lucky I get to sleep in somewhat tomorrow before Hello Hockey. DVD, great stuff as always, my friend. Hopefully we get to do this at least one more time as the Oilers look to force the 7th game. Great job, my friend. I'll see you at the rink.
Sounds good, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
There you go. There's Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. Check him out on X, and you read all of his fantastic articles on NHL.com. All right, we have Matt Kassian standing by. I've got a bunch of texts that I want to get to as we get ready to bring Cass into the show. Keep those coming, 780-218-9999. You heard about the Arizona Coyotes. They are basically toast. You're going, but Tom, they moved to Utah. Yep, the hockey team did, but the franchise was still owned by Alex Morello. They're waiting for this land auction that was supposed to happen, and about an hour ago, they put out a statement saying that the Arizona Land Development Committee, or whatever its formal name is, has revoked the land auction. So this thing in Arizona with the Coyotes doesn't look like it's going anywhere, and we kind of knew that all along. So this text comes in out of Calgary, says California, Arizona, Texas, Florida don't deserve hockey teams, so I'll never be sad if it fails there. California, it's worked for over 50 years. Arizona, I mean, I think it could work, but it's been a mess. Texas, it is working. Florida, the Lightning are an excellent hockey franchise and a very good hockey market, much to a lot of people's surprise. Let's go to Big Hugh, says, Tommy, holy F, Game 6, Stanley Cup Final. Who would have thought? Last home game of the year. That building will be rocking, and the boys will have to feed us that and push this to 7. Cannot wait for this to start. Let's effing go. This one from Sheldon says, hey, Tommy, yesterday was the 9th wedding anniversary for my wife and I. So we're going out on a date night dinner. She asked if the restaurant had TV so the game would be on and told me that I can sit on the side facing the TV. How thoughtful. Maybe after the Oilers win, we'll do some celebrating of our own. Sasky Sheldon. Happy anniversary, guys. And hopefully the Oilers give you even more reason to cheer tonight. All right. He's been standing by for a few minutes. He is our game analyst. He is Matt Kassian. He is ready to go with game changers as we prepare for Game 6 of this Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton down 3-2, looking to force a deciding 7th game. Of course, Game Changers brought to you by Damon Bunting, RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top-producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among Western Canadian RE/MAX realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. He's community-driven and understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. He has been riding with us all year long. Cass has the cap out. Cass is ready to go. How you feeling going into this Game 6 tonight on home ice, Cass?
Oh, I'm good. I'm excited, Tom. I mean, who knows what happens, but there's a part of me that's like, it kind of feels like they have to win, doesn't it? Maybe I'm starting to buy into the Matthew Owanek vibes there with that one, but I'm like, it just feels like they have to win. But no, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready. Excited for this one, Tom. The city is holding its breath. Downtown is crazy.
Yep.
I know a whole swath of offices were letting their people out early just so that they could get out of downtown before everybody piled in for the massive gong show of a get together. So yeah, it's Tom. It's exciting. It's Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. You've battled back into contention in the series. You need to do it one more time to give yourself that shot at actually winning the Stanley Cup. It's primed, Tom, for an exciting night.
My goodness. Cass, how do you think the players are feeling right now, especially on the Oilers side of things?
Hard to say. There's probably still nerves there, but they've done a terrific job the last 2 games of managing to control that and to control their emotions and to just go out and play. So I assume they're feeling much of the same. I mean, again, they bought themselves 60 more minutes with their last win. Their backs are still against the wall. It's still lose and go home. So I imagine the feeling is very similar to how it has been, and that it's great job. Job's not done yet. We have to stay focused, stay ready, and find a way to win a hockey game. So I can't imagine that there's more nerves than there have been for the Edmonton Oilers the last 2 games. Now, maybe for the Florida Panthers, maybe a little bit more. You drop 2 in a row, you lose this one, all of a sudden you have a chance to lose the series. So maybe a few more nerves on the side of the Florida Panthers. But Tom, 2 really good teams, and they're both going to be ready to play.
All right, that leads us right into game changers formally. Number 1, Conn Smythe Connor. This guy has 8 points in his last 2 games.
Absolutely unbelievable, Tom. Hockey is a really hard game to win all by yourself. In fact, you can't win a hockey game all by yourself. You need your teammates. You need everyone else. And Connor has had support from other players. But you asked me, and I think it was heading into game 5, if Connor McDavid or Stuart Skinner was the MVP of the series. And at that time I said, well, really close, maybe lean towards Stuart Skinner at that point. Can't really say that now. Not that Stuart Skinner, he's been just as good, if not better than he was, through game 5, but McDavid has just outshone as he should. He's the best player in the world. But yeah, absolutely deserving of the Conn Smythe. I mean, you could argue if the Oilers do lose and Connor has another terrific night that he still should win the Conn Smythe, even though he's on the losing team. I don't see that happening because people that vote are kind of stuck in their way of doing things, and they'll give it to the team that wins.
Yep.
But Tom, unbelievable. As you said, 8 points in 2 games. He has been on an absolute heater, on an absolute mission, and we're going to see that continue again here today. I mean, he's going to be at the top of his game. It's not going to be a sleepy night from Connor. The Florida Panthers are going to do what they can to try to slow him down, to try to stop him from being as effective, but it's really hard to do, as we have seen time and time and time again with Connor McDavid.
What might be a way to slow him down and stop him? Because I know the usual tricks, take away his time and space and keep the puck away from him. Even that doesn't seem to be working because he's turned on the cheat code mode.
Yeah, aside from going like full Petrangelo and like tomahawk chopping, just full overhead, like trying to cut his arm off or his leg off, probably. There's not you can't.
Yeah.
He's too fast, too explosive, too good on his edges laterally. I mean, just look at that goal or assist that he got rather in game 5 where he walked everybody. Just the dynamic way he's able to shift on his edges at top speed is nothing like anyone I have ever seen. And he's been able to do that for a number of years. Really, from the first time I saw him, saw him live, I went, oh boy, like this guy's might be better than anyone I've ever seen. Could be the best ever in terms of pure raw talent. And I stand by that. I think he is the most talented player ever, particularly with the way he skates. He just can do things that other people can't. So when he is fully on at the top of his game, there's not much you can do. I mean, you need a defenseman that is like world-class skating, defending ability to be able to slow him down, to maintain gap control, to stay in between, and but to do it where you're not just giving him free rein to make passes. So, gap control, for those that maybe aren't aware what that is just the distance between the forward and the defender.
Right.
So having a gap or the space between a forward and a defender, good defensemen generally play with what's called a tight gap. So you play close to the guy, because if you're close to him, you can knock the puck off his stick, you can play the body, you can impede when he tries to move the puck. Oftentimes with Connor, he gets a little bit more gap because he's so fast that the defenders have to be backpedaling and backing up, and they're trying to give themselves a little bit more cushion, because if you have too tight a gap against a player like Connor, he just walks you because he's too explosive, and he'll kick it into high gear and step around you. But in order to be able to keep that gap tight and impede him from making those world-class passes that he makes, well, you have to be able to skate backwards almost as fast as Connor skates forward. And that's incredibly hard to do. So it's just
luck.
Good luck indeed. You can't stop Connor when he's at the top of his game. Now you try to limit him. You try to force him to make really low percentage plays, force him to make hard passes. And so that comes down to the other players defending on the ice as well. You have to, maybe that would be the answer then, Tom, as I'm just working my way through this out loud, is it's a team thing where you have the guy defending Connor, but everyone else has to pick up everybody else, because the low percentage play with Connor McDavid is forcing him to skate through everybody. Now he's going to do it sometimes,
yeah,
because he's that good.
Yep.
But that's the lowest percentage play. And so, if you do a good enough job defending everywhere else on the ice, well, maybe you can limit him a little bit. But yeah, really one of the most impossible tasks to do, which is why he's the best player in the world.
Number one on Game Changers tonight, Conn Smythe Connor with Matt Kassian. Game Changers is always brought to you by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. If you're just joining us, be sure to like, share, subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, EdmontonSportsTalk.com's audio player, and Apple Music, you could text us at 780-218-9999. We do want to hear from you. All right. Number one was Conn Smythe Connor. Number two, Cass, my cousin Nicky.
Yeah, little Nicky, my cousin Nicky, Nick Cousins. Looks like he's slotting into the lineup for the first time in this series. Now, if anyone pays attention to Nick Cousins and watches the Florida Panthers, you know that this is the heel turn, right? Like this is the dirty player, the greasy player, the wild card, as it were. Much more so than Matthew Tkachuk. Now he's Matthew Tkachuk on steroids in terms of playing dirty, without as much skill. Now he does score goals. It's not like he doesn't have any offensive talent, and he's just a hack out there, but he really, really walks that razor's edge of being suspended every time he plays or tries to. And I can imagine, after not playing so far in this series, the Panthers, you won 3 games in a row. You weren't overly going to mix with the lineup for Paul Maurice. And now you've lost 2. So you're like, okay, well, what tools and what levers do I have to pull to try to switch things up, to maybe try to throw the other team off, to try to stir the pot, to try to get back to how we need to play? And for Florida, Nick Cousins is one of those guys because he is such a wild card. I mean, Tom, just watch him. He's going to be so fired up tonight, just like everyone else is. Like that line will be fine indeed. Now he's going to have to be careful because he can't take penalties and do something unnecessarily. But mark my words, if he's out on the ice against Connor, talk about the tomahawk chop, there's a guy that's going to take a healthy run at him, and not a clean, healthy run at him. Player you have to be aware of. Again, he's not a player that scores a million goals, but he can score, plays that dirty game. And Tom, he's a little bit of a wild card heading into this game tonight. He's going to play with an edge. He's going to play nasty. He's going to play dirty. And for the Edmonton Oilers, you have to find ways to communicate with your teammates so you're not getting run over, protect yourself if necessary, and try to expose a player that might be just so full of gusto that he's running around putting himself out of position, which is a very real possibility. But yeah, I mean, to me, I know it's like a 3rd or 4th line player coming in and out of the lineup here, but he's one that can have an impact on a game, and he definitely has an impact on the flavor of a game, as we have seen in the past in the playoffs and in the regular season with Nick Cousins.
Nick Cousins has not played since Game 3 of the Rangers series. He is 11 games played in the postseason is his stat line with 1 assist, -1, 20 penalty minutes, 8 shots, 8:35 average time on ice per game, 17 hits, 7 block shots. That is the stat line for Nick Cousins in this postseason. So my cousin Nicky is point number 2 on Game Changers with Matt Kassian. And number 3 is a very important one, and it has proved to be this entire series. Cass, score first.
Even more than ever. That first goal in Game 5 was so crucial. And it's so crucial because it set the tone for the Edmonton Oilers, in that it's like, now we have the lead. We can win this hockey game, as opposed to being the team that's chasing. And I think now that you've won 2 in a row and you've started to build some momentum on your own, if you score first and you're the Edmonton Oilers, you can carry that forward a little bit. And who knows, we talk and have talked at length about trying to create doubt in the minds of the Florida Panthers, with the big blowout win in Game 4, and then again a tighter win, but still a controlling win, maybe not for the whole game, but a win that you got in Game 5. You maybe have started to create some of that doubt and the questions in the back of the Florida Panthers' minds of, well, they might actually come back in this. Well, they might actually do something historic.
Right.
In that first goal, you just have it's not a dagger goal, because even if it's early, both teams are going to battle through the full 60 minutes, but it feels like it has even more of an impact. And to pile on top of that, that crowd is going to be electric. The bill, like no one no, no one pass gas in the crowd tonight because it might light on fire. Like that's the type of environment. Like it's just the environment is primed. The building is going to be primed. Like it is going to be absolutely bedlam in the building if Edmonton scores first. Now, if you're Florida and you score first, have a chance to maybe take the crowd out of it, take some of that momentum out of it, create doubt in the minds of Edmonton, where it's like, oh, well, yeah, we won 2, but now we're behind and we're chasing. Again, Edmonton's probably still going to battle through, but that first goal, Tom, just so crucial today. It's important in every game, but Tom, I just... personally, it's like I get the feeling if Edmonton scores first, they are just going to roll. If Florida scores first, they're going to try to roll, and it's going to be very difficult for Edmonton to get back into it with how tight Florida can play defensively. So, Tom, that first goal, more important than ever. Huge for the crowd, huge for the team, huge for momentum for whoever gets it.
The Panthers 9-2 when they score first in this postseason. Edmonton 12-5. It is Game Changers with our game analyst Matt Kassian, right here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Number 1 was Conn Smythe Connor. Number 2 was my cousin Nikki. Number 3, Score First. Of course, we want you to get in on the conversation. 780-218-9999. Cass, I'm going to read out the question of the night, but first I have this text that came in out of Calgary. It says, if that pylon Cousins does something to McDavid, then Barkov goes headfirst into the boards the next shift. Eye for an eye. And then adds, I hope they put 3 past Bob on the first 5 shots, completely blow his confidence for the rest of the series. Okay, I'm going to get to this one. It is the question of the night. I'm curious to know what Cass thinks. I also want to know what you think out there. If you're watching or listening on all of our platforms, text us 780-218-9999, and then, of course, get into the nasty chat as well. Cass, should Evander Kane be in the lineup tonight if he is healthy enough to play, or do you stick with a lineup that has won the past 2 games? Chris Knobloch had Kane at a game time decision.
Yeah. I ain't changing nothing. You won 2. Is he actually back at being able to play at the level you need him to play or not?
I don't think so.
You don't know. And some of the guys that have stepped up in his absence have done a good job of it. So I'm probably not looking to make a change. If he's a game time decision where you're uncertain, go with the certainty. Don't put him in. That's me. And that's not trying to say anything bad about Evander Kane. I mean, he's a player that's hurt. But if he's not going to be able to give you what you need, or there's questions about if he's going to give you what you need, you don't put him in. So I'm probably not dressing Evander Kane if it was my decision. But it's not. We'll see.
I'm 100% with you on this one. Is it gamesmanship? Is that what this is? Or is it just Knobloch being vague?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, they're always vague. I don't think it's gamesmanship to like, oh, I'm going to psych him out. Now, if it was like McDavid, you're like, oh, I don't know if McDavid's going to play or not. Like that more is on the gamesmanship side. But Evander Kane, very different player, very, very different style of play. And we have seen, when he's not healthy here, he just hasn't been able to be as effective as he would like to be or the team would like him to be. So I don't put it off on gamesmanship, but I put it more on, again, you just maybe vague, maybe because he hasn't made up his mind, or chances are he probably has, but they just like being vague because it's the NHL. That's what they do.
Coy, vague, whatever. I don't anticipate Kane playing, but we shall see. We'll keep you up to date as the team gets set to hit the ice for warm-up, as well as the Panthers, but we pretty much have an idea of what their lineup looks like. YouTube Trev, in our own group conversation, says, oh, look, Nick Cousins just hopped in the nasty chat. Such weird timing. We've had a few Florida Panthers in the nasty chat throughout the Stanley Cup Final.
It's part of their pregame routine.
Yeah, they like to watch the oil stream. They like to watch what we've got on EST, and we appreciate that. So thank you. Welcome, Nick Cousins. If you're watching out there, get in on the conversation. Cass, one thing that came up today, and I think it's valid, and it was interesting to hear his thoughts on it, was the play of Leon Draisaitl. And he's got 2 assists through 5 games in this series. We've been wondering aloud, what's going on with this guy? Is he really banged up? Is he hiding something? Is he just not being effective? Today, he said it's on him to play better, and he's going to play better, and that, it's nothing short of just him not living up to snuff. And what do you make of his reaction to his performance thus far in this Cup Final? And what do you think we're going to see from number 29 tonight in Oilers Silks?
Yeah, well, he's being honest, as we all have said and seen. He hasn't been at the level that he would like to be. Now, you could call it a slump. You could call it what you want. I think he's pretty significantly banged up. I still think it's his lower back from the hit where we saw him, I think, quite visibly in pain go off. And again, to me, it looked like a lower back thing. And those, especially if you're continuing like without a period of like a week to have time off, it's not going to get better because every time you get bumped, it's going to be bugging you again. And yeah, you could freeze it up. You could do what you need to, but your muscles aren't going to respond the same way. And that's a core part of your body that you need to play the style of game that Leon, or when Leon's playing his best, he's playing, which is, you know, using his size, using his strength, spinning off of people in the offensive zone, leaning on players to create some separation so he can make plays, using his reach, you know, leaning into one-timers on the power play, leaning into shots where that's a twisting motion, same thing, where I think there's a little bit of difficulty there. Now, he is a guy that wants to battle and does battle. And so, yes, he's going to still put his lack of performance on himself, but I do think he's banged up, Tom. And it is the type of thing where if we look at this series and we look at tonight, if Leon can find a way to get more involved than he has been, you know, you help your chances to win dramatically if you're the Edmonton Oilers, particularly if he can do that 5-on-5. Now, the power play as well, although that has started to clip along at a little bit of a better pace the last two games, you know, then all of a sudden your team's even more dangerous. So yeah, I respect Leon Draisaitl, you know, respect him owning it. He knows he hasn't done what he would like to do in this series. Now they're battling back into it, Tom. He's still got at least 60 more minutes to try to be a difference maker. And I hope for our sake, for Edmonton's sake, and for his own sake, you know, he finds a way to be that tonight.
780-218-9999. It is the Oil Stream pregame show. Matty Kassian with Game Changers. All right, Cass, just really quickly, what kind of hockey game are we getting at Rogers Place tonight?
Ooh, an electric one. I mean, the tension will be palpable. Like you're going to, as I said, you're going to feel it in the air. I think we're getting an absolute battle. I think we're getting the best game of the series, and it could be the tightest game of the series too. Florida's going to push. Edmonton's going to push. They're going to have a loud and rambunctious crowd behind them. And Tom, it's just going to be exciting. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
Brother, great job tonight. Great job all season long. We'll see what happens. Maybe we get to do this one more time.
Maybe
on Monday on another pregame show. But till then, enjoy the game, pal. Great work.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
That is Matt Kassian, our game analyst, bringing us Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. And if you didn't catch it, Cass going with Conn Smythe Connor, my cousin Nicky. Talk about Nick Cousins getting inserted into the lineup for the Panthers. And then score first. The Panthers 9-2 this playoffs when they score first. Edmonton 12-5. YouTube Trev, any thoughts, any texts you want to get to before we go to more audio from earlier today?
No, I'm good with just going in the locker room, Tommy. I want to hear from the boys. I want to hear from what Leon Draisaitl had to say, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. I want to hear it as well. Let's get to that.
Okay, I should have had it queued up here. Okay, there we go. Okay, there it is. Okay, this is Zach Hyman and Leon Draisaitl ahead of tonight's Game 6 action.
Good. I just want to ask you about, you know, the getting here, the journey that you guys have taken to get here, and also wanted to ask you about how you feel at this point, and personally yourself, how you feel about your game here in the final.
I mean, it's obviously been up and down year, but for the most part, up after a tough start, of course, and you know, I think we've shown that we're a very resilient group, and we're good with the backs against the wall. So. Obviously, we like being in these situations. We've done it a lot this year, and feel very comfortable in it. Myself, obviously not happy with the way I'm playing. You know, haven't found my game. You know, haven't found my legs, and just not the standard that I hold myself to. Obviously, but excited to come into the series tonight.
We'll stay in that same row, Jason.
Zach, I know confidence is such a big thing for personal players. Is it for the power play at the same time? Do you feel like once you guys scored, do you sense a difference on your power play like we saw last series against Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice for it to go in, obviously. I think it works twofold. When you're scoring and you're playing in a series against a team, you're gaining confidence, and then the penalty kill, obviously, when you get scored on, it's just you obviously feel it a little bit, right? So it works on both ends. You're maybe not as aggressive as you once were because you're afraid you're going to get stung again. So, but I think as you go later in the series, it favors power plays more because you kind of are trying to figure out what to do, right? And the penalty kill has to adjust to the power play now.
Left side, first row, Ryan.
Leon, do you feel that with the push that they had late in that game to try and tie it, and obviously you guys withstood it, but do you feel like there's another level you guys need to find, to maybe be the ones pushing and not necessarily just hanging on?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watch the whole playoffs, though, it's really, really hard when a team is trying to tie a game up to keep pushing. Like every team in the dressing room on the bench says the same things, we got to keep playing forward and keep pushing and keep pressing. It's really, really hard to do when a team is trying to tie the game up. That's no different than us in Game 3. We were pushing and they were just kind of hanging on, right? So, but in terms of overall game, I definitely think that they're gonna push tonight, and we have to make sure that we push harder and obviously come out desperate and bring our best game.
Left side, third row, Greg.
There we go. Hey, Leon. When you say you haven't been able to get to your game yet, what are the factors behind that for you? I mean, is it what the Panthers are doing? Is it a variety of different line mates in these games? Like, what are the things contributing to that?
No, it has nothing to do with either of those. It's me. I've always been able to come back from stretches where, I maybe haven't been at my best, and it's just myself. Being better, and like I said, I hold myself to extremely high standards, and if I don't get to that, obviously, I'm not happy with it. So, like I said, very excited to come into it tonight.
Left side, second row, Mark.
Yeah, Zach. There's sort of a feeling around a lot of the press and a lot of the people around the league and stuff that you guys are coming home to this great crowd. It's going to be such a wild atmosphere. The Panthers don't have a chance against the entire city of Edmonton, all that stuff. Is there a bit of a trap for you guys? Is there a bit of something that could catch you unaware with the fact that, it's still a hockey game no matter who's cheering for what?
No, I mean, I think our mindset hasn't changed. I think our belief hasn't changed. I think the narrative's changed. I think that's kind of an outside perspective where you're down 3-0 and the belief inside the room is we can do this, but the belief outside the room is these guys are done. And then obviously you win a game, and then the belief outside the room grows, and you win another game, and it's like, well, they can't lose at home now, right? Like, that's the outside belief, right? But I think internally, it's excitement. It's excitement that you've won 2 games and you have an opportunity to win a game at home in your last game of the season at home, right? No matter what, it's the last game at home. So it's an excitement amongst the group, and it's just an internal belief that has remained steadfast from when we were down 3-0.
We'll take 3 more. Left side, second row, Tony.
Morning, Zach. Of course, speaking to the author himself, I'd like to get your opinion on how this team has been able to flip the script in terms of being renowned for its power play, but now in the playoffs, it's really arguably through.
All right, that was Zach Hyman and Leon Draisaitl. We're going to talk about what Leon Draisaitl had to say about his game. I'm watching Gene Principe. He's in the moss pit doing a hit, or in the fan park. He just gave a kid and his mom tickets to the game. He's interviewing the police. Don't spill beer on Gene's suit. Don't be a jerk, and there's cops right in front of you. Come on, you guys. Enjoy those delicious, delicious libations. Savor them. Don't spill them on Gene's suit while he's on the air. Come on, be better than that. Unbelievable. Poor Gino, our paisan, a man about town, in the crowd, getting beer spilt on him. He doesn't need to be baptized in beer. The man needs to work. My goodness, that's my only gripe. That's all I'm saying. Everybody else, you guys be you. Have a good time out there. Drink that beer. Don't spill it on Uncle Gene. Is that too much to ask, Trev?
No, sorry. I just had to unmute myself. Not at all. Gene's the guy. Gene's the legend. I mean, like back home, he was the first person that I got as a guest on my YouTube channel, which was like just, I remember it was the coolest thing ever. I reached out to him on Instagram and I was like, hey, Gene, like I've been doing YouTube for a little bit now, and I'd like for you to be the first guest ever, because back home, Gene's the guy. Gene's the guy. Don't pour beer on freaking Gene, man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And especially at the cost, $20 for a beer. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That grinds my gears, Tommy. I'm with you on that one.
Thank you. There has been a post showing a Zamboni, like a literal Zamboni, driving down the street with a bunch of guys on the back. Wow. People are pumped up, as they should be, for this game tonight. Wow, getting rowdy. Be safe out there, mixing in water. I just had a text from Tube Socks who said Mrs. Tube Socks and her friends are hanging out on 104th tonight at Kelly's to watch the game, and hopefully everybody behaves themselves tonight. We'll see how things go. All right, I've got a text here from John the Breadman, 780-218-9999. John the Breadman says, oh, to be 20 again. Just had the rowdiest group of fans going nuts with them. Good vibes in traffic circles, screaming and hollering, hanging out the windows. LOL, let's expletive go. Thank you, John the Breadman. And then Conroe, Texas says, 5 Millers in and fired up. U.S. media pimping Connor big time now, comparing him to Caitlin Clark as someone who is capable of pulling non-hockey fans into hockey. Okay. Oil Gill getting in there says, is Kane's injury still the athletic hernia like before the playoffs? If you mean athletic pubalgia, yes, that is our understanding. It's the athletic pubalgia that continues to hamper him, and that is a sports hernia, if you don't want to use the scientific term. Cass bestowed that term on us because Cass suffered from a sports hernia, aka athletic pubalgia, during his playing days. I believe when he was with the Minnesota Wild. Said it took him 10 minutes to get out of bed. His stomach hurt so bad, and it took like a lot of painkillers, and then obviously needed surgery to get it fixed. All right. You know what we should do here? We should hear from the Florida Panthers, YouTube, Trev. And I think it's best that we go to Paul Maurice, because I thought he was excellent today, as always, with the media and in his messaging. So if we could, can we hear from Paul Maurice, head coach of the Florida Panthers?
Here to close things out, what do you think the guys have learned over these last two games, just in terms of the experience, the moment? Obviously, because like you said before, this series, most of these guys have never felt these feelings before.
Just to order the emotions and get your priorities correct. I thought, I know we played a heck of a game in Game 5. I think that was structurally as close to our game. A vast majority of that will be training camp video. It was good. So that's the start. Put the game first.
Left side, first row.
Paul, Nick Cousins had some big moments the
Yeah.
last few years for your team. Second round, knocking out the Leafs in overtime. What's happened that his role has changed here this year? I mean, and what do you expect from him tonight?
We'll play the vast majority of the games for us. We added 2 players at the trade deadline. So Tarasenko and Okposo came in. We moved Vladdy all around until he found his home. Kyle, he really built. We had dropped 2 overtime games in the New York series consecutively. So we were rotating in. They're almost a pair, and I had moved them as pairs in and out of the lineup, and then we won 6 straight. So if there had been a change in the order of wins, he'd have come back in earlier. I left Kyle in for Game 5 just because he had played so darn well, and I really liked what he was doing, and not that changed a whole lot, but there's a chemistry of Lombard, Stenlund, and Cousins because they played together so much this year, and we found that the players that come out and then come in, they never come in afraid to make a mistake. They come in wired, right? They sat out. They don't like it. It's not a negative emotion. They want to be a part of it so bad that I found, like, I really liked Ryan's game. I thought he was on the puck and physical and smart and impactful in that game, and we'll expect that from Nick.
Left side, fourth row.
For you personally, Paul, how much do you allow yourself to think what the outcome of the next 1 or 2 games could do for your legacy as a head coach? Or do you fight off thoughts like that?
I don't fight them. I think if I did, it would have been after Game 3, right? And I wouldn't be thinking of those words. You can just feel it. It's right there. dropping the next 2 games puts you right back into the series, and it gets right back to hockey forefront. So now I don't have to fight any of those thoughts. There's no daydreaming. This is all get the right video right, prep your team right. It's about the game tonight. So if I had to fight for it, it would have been 4 or 5 days ago, not now.
Front row, right side.
Paul, you've coached a lot of captains in the NHL. What does Alexander Barkov like to kind of work with and deal with? And what is his sort of style of leadership compared to some of the other players you've coached?
I think he would be, for comparisons, he would be closest to Matt Sundin in work ethic, practice habits, like all the things that some superstars don't have to do. He does it. He is easily, not that the other men weren't, the most coachable, because there's not 10 things you got to coach, right? There's just, it's more, can you apply what you're really good at to this style or this thought? So that's kind of, would be the only coaching that happens. But what he's great at, I don't think that it's a big speech that creates this environment. It's how he moves around the players every single day, and he's been here for so long. When you ask the players at the start of the year, what's the thing about our culture that you like the most? A large number of responses is how easy it is to fit into the room, how easy it is for all the new guys. We have 9 new players from last year come in. How easy it was for them be there 2 weeks and feel like you've always played there. And I think that's him, because he moves around the room with no ego. It's not that he doesn't have one. It's that he never makes you feel that you're less important than he is. He's as humble a leader as I've ever had, but also very competitive and very intense. So he's got that wonderful mix. I haven't done it justice because I can't. You need to move around that man and just kind of, we talk a lot about it in the coach's office, what it's like to have a guy like that that's, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's go.
We'll take 3 more questions.
All right, that was Paul Maurice. Definitely some high praise for his captain, Alexander Barkov, comparing him to the Hall of Famer Matt Sundin. And Barkov looking to cement his legacy as one of the game's best, certainly one of the best defensive players, one of the most underrated players. And he wants to get his hands on a Stanley Cup and help captain his team to one of those. At the other end of the rink, you have Captain Connor McDavid looking to continue the magic. 8 points in his last 2 games. Brilliant. 5 points back of Wayne Gretzky's all-time playoff points record of 47, which he set in 1985. And a quick lineup note for you. The Oilers and the Panthers are on the ice for warm-up. There is no Evander Kane in warm-up for the Edmonton Oilers. I did see Sam Carrick hit the ice for warm-up. Once they get to line rushes, which looks like they might be getting close to doing, we will pass those along your way. 780-218-9999. You could text us if you're watching on YouTube. Please hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're getting set for game number 6. Oilers looking to keep this thing going and force the 7th game on Monday night. Let's go to this one. It says, how long will it take Kane to be ready for next season after surgery? Still blows my mind they didn't do this in January. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a team player and medical staff decision. And I remember Cass saying when he went through it and had the surgery, I believe he said it was a 6-week recovery. So I'm pretty sure that the surgery for Kane would be happening pretty quickly at the conclusion of this series, a summer of rehab for the rugged Oilers winger. All right. We do have a bit more audio to get to. Let's hear from some of the young guys on the Oilers side. A guy like Dylan Holloway, who's really, had a great impact in the Stanley Cup Final. A couple goals in Game 4, has sacrificed his body at times. Really, really, I think, asserted himself and solidified his spot in the lineup next year. Him and Philip Broberg have done that, and we're going to hear from Holloway first, potentially getting to Broberg as well as more of your text. Let's do that now.
A little critical of himself this morning in the way he's playing. He says his standards are very high. He's not living up to it. What do you think about his game, and how do you feel? Honestly, I think he's been great. I think he obviously does put a lot of pressure on himself. He expects a lot out of himself, and I think that's what makes him so good. But I think he's got to realize that even if he's not feeling great, he's still better than 99% of the guys out there. So he's been awesome, and I think I think you just got to keep playing the way he is.
The numbers aren't there, but what is he doing, in your opinion, that is doing well, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, he's just so good with the puck. He's always making good plays. He's good defensively. On the power play, he gets a ton of touches, and he's able to handle bad pucks, make good plays to other guys, and it's kind of like the little things all over the ice.
Do you feel it's Game 6 now? Does it feel any different than Game 4 or 5?
I mean, it's just kind of getting down to the wire, I guess. Game 4 and 5, it's kind of the same, like elimination games, but this time, potentially we got 2 games left, so we're just dialed in for that, and we're super excited for the opportunity.
How do you feel what have you learned about yourself in handling this pressure? I've never been in a Stanley Cup Final before, and really never been in the playoffs before.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my first game was in the playoffs, and I was so nervous I couldn't even skate. I think I toe picked for a shift, so I've definitely come a long way since then, and I feel pretty good about my confidence level and my ability to play in these playoffs.
What's it like being in the city for you, like right now with everything going on with the fans, just the excitement around everything?
Yeah, it's incredible. It fires you up, honestly, like seeing everybody supporting us, and it means so much for the city and for Northern Alberta. So it's definitely pretty exciting, and it's an honor to put that jersey on.
What does it mean for you guys when Connor McDavid goes out and does what he does? I know he's a leader off the ice too, but to see him do what he's done on the ice in this series in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Like there's no shortage of words, but he's just so awesome. He brings it every single day, and when we need him the most, that's when he plays the best. So he's obviously a really special player and a special guy too.
Dylan, just to circle back on the confidence question for you, how big of a part, how big does that play into your own game too, finding your confidence as an NHLer?
Yeah, it's definitely huge. It's when you kind of come into the league, you're trying to figure out your spot on the team, your role, get used to the pace, get used to everything, and that sometimes you get a little nervous, but the more you play, the more experience you get, more confidence you get, and then I think just kind of try and build on that and use it as much as I can.
So yesterday, Stu mentioned how you gotta have fun. This is what you grow up to be. This is what your dream is. He's bopping along sometimes to the music. Are you able to enjoy it in the moment? Do you feel like, wow, this is fun, even though it's maybe the biggest moment of your life as far as hockey goes?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just so thankful to get to play a game for a living. That's what it is, and it means so much to so many people. It means so much to us, and it's just an honor to be able to play hockey for a living, and to play at this stage and this time of year is even more special.
All right, that was Dylan Holloway as he gets set to take on the Florida Panthers one more time in Game 6 as the Oilers and Panthers are wrapping up warm-up. They're still kind of going. Stuart Skinner is bobbing his head to the music. They went out of the gates like a bat out of hell, and we do have updated lines for you. A bit of a tweak to the lineup for the Oil tonight. Nothing major, nobody really coming in or going out, but just some shuffling between a couple of players. So here you go. The lines for tonight: McDavid between Nugent Hopkins and Hyman, Draisaitl with Foegele and Holloway on his flanks, Adam Henrique between Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown, and then Derek Ryan with Ryan McLeod and Corey Perry on defense, Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Broberg, Kulak with Ceci, Skinner between the pipes. So the one change, you're going to see Nugent Hopkins on the top line with McDavid and Hyman yet again. Foegele will slide down to play with Draisaitl and Holloway. You've got Brown and Janmark with Henrique between them, and then Derek Ryan centering McLeod and Perry. No changes to the defense. Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Broberg, Kulak with Ceci. So there you go. There's your Oilers lineup for tonight. As for the Florida Panthers, here is how they are going to roll out their lineup. Barkov between Verhaeghe and Reinhart. Bennett with Rodriguez and Tkachuk. That line was dangerous in the third period. Pretty much the majority of the game for the Panthers. Lundell between Luo Storinen and Tarasenko. Kevin Stenlund between Ryan Lomberg and Nick Cousins, who comes in for Kyle Okposo. On defense for the Florida Panthers, Gustav Forsling with Aaron Ekblad, Nico Mikkola with Brandon Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson paired up with former Oiler Dmitry Kulikov. Bobrovsky between the pipes for the Florida Panthers. Text us 780-9999. We have a few minutes left to go. All right, YouTube, Trev, I think we can ride this one out, you and I. Your thoughts going into tonight's action and seeing these small tweaks to the Oilers lineup?
Yeah, as far as the line goes, I am a little surprised because I have liked what Fogle has brought to that first line. With he's a good forechecker and he's first to the puck. He's got that mentality, so I don't mind that. But I think they're probably leaning towards Connor's buzzing right now. Let's give him as much help as he doesn't really need help, but let's give him the pieces because he's clearly bringing the offense right now. So maybe that's what they're leaning towards. That's the only thing I can really think of. But Fogle, Draisaitl, Holloway, it's worked in the past, kind of. I don't think they're going to be able to outscore the opponent, but if they can play a good defensive game, I think that's kind of what they're going for there. So I don't mind these. Personally, I don't think they're set in stone. I wouldn't be surprised if Nugent Hopkins gets slotted back on the second line, but I'm with Cass. I think this is going to be the best game of the series so far. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. I think it's going to be close, and this is why I moved to Edmonton. I have so many friends that came up for today's game just to be in the mosh pit, and they're just like, wow, this is the craziest thing I've ever experienced. Yeah. So, man, it's going to be a great game, and I'm expecting another just dominant performance from 97 himself, and here's hoping the Oilers can get it done. But as far as the line changes go, I'm not too worried about them, Tommy.
Hey, he went flying out of that gate to get going in warm-up. He looks like he's ready to rock, and 8 points in his last couple games. Absolutely insane. A couple of stats to throw your way as we wind things down here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Also, I should mention portions of this last hour were brought to you by 100.3 The Bear, Edmonton's best rock. Catch Dusty Nielsen on every morning during the week with Uke and McCord on the morning show, and then tune in to Jess Jackson on your drive home from work every weekday. Here's McDavid's elimination stats, which have tied an NHL record. Connor McDavid, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points in 4 games played. He's tied for the most points while facing elimination in a single postseason, matching Mika Zibanejad, who had 4 and 7 in 6 games of the 2022 Rangers postseason run, as well as 2014 Kings teammates Justin Williams, who had 6 goals, 5 assists in 7 games played, and Anze Kopitar, who had 5 goals, 6 assists in 7 games played. I will also throw another stat your way, and I think this one is very apropos, and I hope, and I'm sure a lot of you hope, that this feels like one that stays this way. This is a 3rd straight opportunity to claim a championship for the Florida Panthers. They could leave the ice at Rogers Place as the franchise's first Stanley Cup and achieve a feat rarely accomplished by the opposition. Only one team other than the Oilers has won the Cup in Edmonton, and the Oilers weren't even in that series. Carter Verhaeghe and the Tampa Bay Lightning skated around Rogers Place with the Cup after defeating the Dallas Stars in the 2020 neutral site bubble. I was there for that. It was weird, and you hope that it doesn't happen again. So the Oilers looking to make sure that they are the only team to win a cup in this city when they're actually in the Stanley Cup Final, the Lightning being the asterisk in that one. So we'll see if that stays true and the Oilers can maintain that stat and force a 7th game as they take on the Florida Panthers in Game 6, looking for a 3rd consecutive victory. They will be in tough. I know that building's going to be rocking. I'm headed there right now. Brother Morgs with the last word says, thanks for the content. Go Oil, Brother Morgs. That's going to do it for the Oil Stream pregame show brought to you by GCL Diesel. A big thank you to all of our sponsors and partners. A huge thank you to Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. For YouTube Trev and Matt Kassian, our game analyst, I am Tom Gazzola saying, you know we love you. You know we appreciate you. Hopefully we're doing this again on Monday. That's going to do it for the pregame show. Enjoy game number 6, everybody. We will see you on the postgame show. Mix in a water. Ciao for now.